Hello, welcome to the American Business Podcast. I am Kevin Deveji, your host. I'm happy to have you today in our podcast session. I'd like to thank you for your support on YouTube. We reach 14,000, more than 14,000 subscribers. So we truly appreciate your support. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, like, and put your comments in our YouTube channel. We'll appreciate it. Also, if you have any ideas for our podcast, you can reach out to us. Our email address is americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. You can also, reach out to us to be one of our guests in coming weeks. We welcome it. We keep an open mind. So feel free to reach out to us and let's stay in touch. And we'll be happy to hear from you, especially our guest, and also hear from you about new ideas, new subjects that we can cover in our business podcast. When you visit our website, americanpodcast.tv, you can also see coming schedule of our podcast sessions. We have a full schedule up to, I believe, like mid-July, and it's actually very organized in that sense. So what is coming, who's gonna be presenting, who's gonna be with us during our podcast episodes, you can see it on our website. Also, we are right now available on Spotify and Amazon Music. Those channels are also listed on our website, americanpodcast.tv. Okay, perfect. Now let's invite our guest, Beth, if possible, and then we can get started. Well, today we have Will Neiman with us, a lawyer, and he was with us before, and we had a great session, and you were very interested in hearing from him. So I'm happy to welcome Will Newman to our virtual stage. Hello, Will. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Krasad, it's great to see you. And hello, the 14,000 of you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it. Well, yes, we are very excited. That's our first 14,000 YouTube subscribers. I'm confident we're going to have many more with the help and support of our subscribers and viewers and guests like yourself, subject matter experts. This podcast is going to be bigger. It's going to have a further reach, and we are very motivated. We are very happy about this. And thank you very much for being with us today. So how was your week so far?
Week has been pretty good. I traveled this week. I had to go to a bar association meeting in Virginia. I had to meet with prosecutors in Baltimore. I met with a friend in Washington, D.C. It's been a busy week. And, work on top of all of that has also been busy. So things are good. The weather is beautiful in New York this week, which is rare. So all in all, very good. How has your week been?
Yeah, so far so good. I had a pretty busy week. We had some marketing events in New York metro area. So that was actually very beneficial, productive events. We met with some new businesses, and also it was a great opportunity to interact with them. Also, some of our team members, actually, we are a nationwide company, and some of our team members are in different states, so we cannot really see them in person all the time. So some of them came, and it was a great opportunity to meet them also in person. So that was really good. And just like you mentioned, weather is great in New York metro area, and that's definitely a blessing, right? So that's a great opportunity to be outside and interact with other businesses and being in the market. So yeah, that was great overall. Good, that's good. Well, if that's okay, let's get started. We have some subjects to cover. So since the last time we met, a lot has changed, and also business world is evolving on daily basis. It's pretty natural. And one of the subjects that we talk about was actually AI. We also talk about different subjects in our previous previous episode with you. And that AI also got a lot of views, by the way. So we know that the AI is a pretty popular subject by the numbers. Also, we can tell. So we'll like to expand on that as well. AI and AI's impact on law practices. And there are some other subjects as well that you and we can discuss if that's okay, and you can share your insights as subject matter experts. So one of the important subjects for any business is actually contract and contract management. So there is a buy side of the contract when you are buying something from a supplier, a vendor. There is the sell side of the contract, that when you are selling a product or service to a customer, a client. And these contracts are critical because they dictate the term of the of the interaction of the transaction, business transaction. So in that sense, they are very important. Also, because of the nature of the business and the contracting, there are actually risks involved as well. So the idea is to also manage and mitigate the risk that comes from either buy side or sell side of the business contracts. Having said that, can you please share your insight about these contracting process? How should companies actually design them? What they should be careful about when putting together vendor contracts as well as customer contracts to mitigate the risk?
Sure. Well, I think contracts can only do so much. So if you're concerned about mitigating risk, the number one thing you can do is your due diligence to make sure that you trust the people that you're doing business with. A contract really only permits you to go to court and try to enforce that promise. And the whole process of paying a lawyer, going to court, the lawyer is oftentimes a very expensive and very burdensome process. And so if you are somewhat unsure about your business partner or afraid that they're going to violate the agreement, it may be a better idea not to do business with this person at all and instead find someone that you do trust, or to spend more time and energy developing that sense of trust first before you start putting pen to paper. But assuming that you do have a relationship with someone that you're willing to trust, there's some things you can put into the agreement that I find to mitigate the level of risk involved. One is most agreements have a provision in them that talk about who will decide this dispute in the event that there is one, and like some of the rules about how that resolution process will take place. So if you have an agreement and the other side is in another country, you may want to put in a provision that says that any lawsuit will be in your country or will be in arbitration, and that you'll be able to recover your lawyer's fees in the event there's a dispute. Because if the only way you can enforce the agreement is by paying a lawyer in Sweden or in Nigeria, then it may not be worth going to court at all and you're out of luck. But if the dispute takes place in your home territory, and if you win, you don't just get the money that you're owed, but you also have the lawyer paid for as well, then suddenly you have a realistic mechanism to enforce the agreement. There's other things I could talk about too, but those are two that come to mind.
Yes, great. Well, so one of the things actually we were discussing with some of our followers is for American companies to do business overseas, say Europe or other regions, for example. And this is a connected world, commercially. We do buy, sell, offer, services as well as get services, sometimes from different regions, pretty common. So in that sense, how should American companies operate? Let's say in Europe and other regions, when they are doing business from your point of view. Actually, that this question also may be the other way around as well. For those companies coming abroad, international companies coming into US, offering their services and products as well. Maybe you can share some of your insights for those companies in general.
Sure. I feel bad because I think the answer to this question is very similar to the answer to the previous one. One is that it's important to do your research. Talk to other people that have done business in that country. Talk to other people that have sold to America or other Americans that have sold abroad, and see what the expectations are, because sometimes the expectations that you may have in selling in one market just aren't true in another. You may assume that you don't need to pay for certain costs, or that something will be very easy when in fact it's very difficult somewhere else, or the expectations are different. One of the resources that I have found very valuable, Prasad, you and I are both members of the French American Chamber of Commerce. And so I feel like if you're doing business in a particular country, find a relevant chamber of commerce, meet people there and talk to them. Those have tended, for me anyway, to be very valuable sources of information. And another is, if you're doing business abroad, to ask yourself, in the event there's a dispute, where will that dispute take place? Because if you're entering into an agreement that you could find yourself being in, court in Brazil or court in Japan, then you should either put in your contract that the disputes will actually be somewhere that you're comfortable and is convenient for you, or to learn the laws of those places and have a lawyer ready to go in the event that you find yourself, having to face a claim somewhere else. One other thing that I'll throw out there is that a lot of businesses are unaware of this thing called the Convention on the International Sale of Goods. But there are a lot of countries that are signatories to this treaty, and there are different rules that apply to sales contracts. If the seller is from one country that is a participant in that treaty, and the purchaser is from another country that's a signatory to that treaty. And so it may be helpful if you are doing business with another country that is a signatory to that treaty. America is one, that you be familiar with the expectations of those rules.
In our previous episode, you and I, we discussed about AI, and it's a pretty popular subject. We definitely discuss about it, share some insights, thoughts in general as well. Also from law point of view, right? Legally, are there any regulations or restrictions in terms of how AI can be actually implemented in business practices?
So the answer is a little complicated. Let me start with the easiest part of the answer. There is no comprehensive regulatory scheme for the ethical use of artificial intelligence. There's, at least I could say there's none that I know of, and I looked at a recent White and Case publication that talked about how they're aware of none either. So I don't believe that there is one. With that said, there are certain other rules that do apply, and there's no exception for AI. So for example, there's a law, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or the Federal Debt Collection Practices Act. I think it's fair. In any event, there are rules about how businesses can collect their debts, and if you were to use AI to collect debts, you would still need to comply with AI rules. There are rules against fraud, and oftentimes AI has issues about hallucinating information, and if you rely upon AI to interact with your potential customers and it says something that is inaccurate upon which someone relies, you could be held responsible. So there's nothing right now that I'm aware of that's specific to AI, and my hope is that there's nothing that I'm unaware of that's out there. So you shouldn't take this as legal advice, but there's nothing that I'm aware of. But the same rules that apply to hiring someone else to speak on your behalf still apply, and that's why I would apply some caution. If you would, if you would double check what an employee would say or what a contractor would say, and you wouldn't just grab some random person on the street and have them speak on your behalf or do work on your behalf, knowing that you'd be responsible for that other person, you should be equally cautious about having an algorithm do the same thing.
Yes, yes, very important. Appreciate it. So, yeah, that was actually a very common question that we hear it all the time. We got this question actually from our audience as well, and in general, also in business, in terms of regulating AI and AI practices, the only thing that I heard so far is an ISO standard came up to regulate AI practices in an organization. So, other than that, yeah, in practice, looks like that is some work to do, that's for sure, in that sense, because I talk with different organizations as well as actually young generation, so I meet with them from time to time. As a matter of fact, I was yesterday in a school called the Summit School in Queens, part of New York, and I was invited, so I talked to the young generation about career journey, how they should pick a right career, how they can actually prepare themselves, and so on. And it was during the Q&A session, this question also came up in terms of AI, right? So will AI really replace us? Are we going to have any jobs? Any occupations will left? Like, these are the questions that I'm getting. These are righteous questions. And also, there are a lot of unknowns so far. So in terms of how AI will be used, that remains to be seen. So far, what we see right now is AI is a tool. We use it as a tool. But then the further conversation is also worth discussing, because the development, the evolution of AI is rapid. Having said that, you and I, we discussed about AI and whether AI will make any replacements in AI in law practice, if you remember. And they got a lot of hits, a lot of views, a lot of comments. This just the whole world just listening to our podcast. Felt like, so, which was great, and that is why I like you to actually expand on that a little bit, if that's possible. So, in terms of AI, do you believe whether AI will replace lawyers, judges, law practice as a whole, right? We talked about this before, but if you can expand on it, that'd be great, because it's really, worth discussing. And it's an exciting subject. Also, it's not too futuristic either. It looks like some things are coming up, but like how soon, that remains to be seen. Nevertheless, I'll appreciate your insights in this matter.
Sure. So I'm always scared about making predictions about the future, because the future will surprise you. But sitting here right now, in the year 2025, I think that in the short term, lawyers aren't going anywhere. In the longer term, my belief is that there are some aspects of the legal profession that are going to get supplanted by artificial intelligence, and there's other parts that I don't think will. So let me talk about the parts that I think in the future I could see getting taken over in some part by AI. One is some aspect of legal research. I don't think the technology is there right now. I could see it being there in the future. But a big part of what litigators like myself do is find if there are comparable cases that have been litigated in courts before, and then be able to tell a judge, there was already a case just like this. The court ruled this way. You should rule this way in the future too. And a lot of people do this research by going online and using websites like Westlaw or LexisNexis to search for these decisions. And Westlaw and Lexis have done a lot to implement artificial intelligence to help people search for these cases. And what some people do is they go into like a chat GPT and they'll type in, what are the most important decisions that I should cite in my brief? And that is a very unreliable thing to do in 2025. People have tried doing that. They've gotten in trouble because sometimes chat GPT will make up fake decisions, or their analysis is not as reliable as an actual lawyer sitting down and doing it themselves. So I don't advise anyone to do that in 2025. Do I think that 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, the technology will be more reliable to the point where it becomes more cost effective to have AI do it rather than to pay me to do it? I think that's a possibility. I'd have to see it myself and be more comfortable before I would ever advise someone to do it. I think that's some possibility. I think there's other things that lawyers do that can be supplanted by AI, maybe a little closer to the future, closer in time. And that is drafting agreements. A lot of that, what lawyers currently do, is they will take existing agreements and modify them to a new situation. If I represent a company and they keep selling to customers, I'm not going to write a brand new agreement from scratch for every single customer. I will take the normal template agreement and modify it so that it's, works for this customer. And that's something that AI could probably be adapted to do as well as people currently do it. I think there's probably some basic question answering. So right now you go to Google and you ask it, what's the capital of North Dakota? And it can answer the question for you. I think that to some extent, again, I don't think the technology is reliable now, but I think to some extent, there's an ability that AI could probably provide that service in the future. But I do think there are some things that AI is just not going to be able to do. One is law is fundamentally about power. It is about the state being able to allocate who gets what goods, who goes to jail. It is a tool of the government in order to order a society. And that's a power that people don't want to give up. There's not going to be a Congress or a king that's going to say, well, I don't want this power. I'm going to hand it over to a computer. So to some extent, it's going to be people ultimately at the top, not because of a limit in technology, but because people don't give up power. I think also some part of law is thinking outside the box. It is, no one's tried this argument before, but why don't we try this and see if it works? It's a lot of changes in the law come that way. And I think also that there's always a reason why the case in front of you is a little different than the ones that came before. So if you were to ask, ChatGPT or Lexis AI, am I going to win this contract dispute? And the AI looks at all the previous contract disputes involving that same sales counterparty or that same product, and the seller always loses. Maybe the AI will say, you'll lose too. But I think that a person has creativity in a way that maybe AI doesn't, to say, well, even though everyone in the past has failed, that was before, this thing that happened yesterday. And this thing that happened yesterday, the onset of COVID, a terrorist attack, God only knows what. And now we live in a different world. And that's why, even though everything was different in the past, we're going to try something new. And that's something that, again, listen, maybe AI can account for all this stuff someday in the future. But for now, and in my imagination, that oh, I want to throw one other thing in there, and that is bedside manner. So when people come to a lawyer, one service that I provide is just listening to people and making them feel like someone's paying attention to their concerns and cares about them. And like, I'm sure there are AI like therapists or AI friends that will like pat you on the back and give you a hug and tell you that, everything's okay. I do think that there is some added thing that people can sense a connection with another person. And so I think that that is something that I don't know if AI is ever going to totally replace. But maybe there's going to be some AI person or AI that is just as good as people. But I think we're probably a long way off from that. I do think, though, that there are certain types of annoying lawyers, ones that make you listen to their long, boring stories, or ones that are, that feel the need to talk a lot. And my hope is that AI can replace some of them, either be the one that has to listen to their dumb stories or can summarize their dumb, long stories. So maybe some aspect of the bedside manner is better delegated to AI. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah, very exciting, and we can discuss this, I think, for hours. It's just a matter of possibilities, right? So talking about
Yeah.
it and discussing it is for a long time is definitely possible. That's for sure. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there can be many different things, and believe it or not, these predictions in terms of like what may really happen, may not. We don't know, but just discussing these, it's a pretty popular subject among our audience. It is because just like you mentioned, no one knows the future. I mean, just we don't have the power to know what's going to be in the future. However, discussing it is really fun, especially when it comes to AI. So I truly appreciate your insights in that sense. Um, in your practice, have you ever had any role models? Do you have any role models that you can share with our audience?
None at all. I was born perfectly able to do my work now. No,
Okay.
there have been several people that I've thought about as people that have not only served as an example for me to learn how to do my job, but also have taught me how to, directly how to represent clients, how to find clients, how to be a good lawyer. So as I was thinking about this question as you were posing it, I realized one of my biggest role models is Chris Saad, you. I don't know how many of the 14,000 and growing number of listeners have gotten to meet you in person, but you are someone that I don't know, has an ability to connect with people, to listen to them, to make friends in a different environment. These are important skills. And it's one thing to be told to do it, and it's another thing to watch someone do it. And so, you're the one of the first
Appreciate it.
people.
And just a disclaimer, this part wasn't script, just for our audience to know. That was really like a spontaneous conversation, just to share with our audience. So thank you so much for this. Appreciate
No,
it.
Chris just texted me as say it's me, say it's me. No, but this is absolutely true. As you're asking the question, I'm like, I'm looking at the guy. But I'm going to say there was a lawyer that I worked with when I worked for a judge a long time ago. He also worked for the judge, but he was a few years older than me. And he was someone that I think served as a good example, not only as someone that cared a lot about getting the right result, but also interacting in the business world, how to talk to people, how the world worked. Was just someone who spent a lot of time and energy making sure that I was learning, which meant a lot to me, but also gave me an insight into a world around me that I don't think I was getting from school or directly from my employers. And then there was the people that worked at my old law firm, the partners there that I would show me as they were working with clients, that would go over my work and edit it, and showed me where I was going wrong or gave me tips about how to do a better job. There were several people that I worked with that now when I handle cases today or go on business networking, trips or excursions, I think about the lessons that I learned watching them and working with them, and they still apply to me today.
Yes, it's very important, right, for all of us having role models, and I truly appreciate that you share this. I know it's a personal question in a way, like in terms of talking about role models and who are they, and sharing with our audience. So thank you very much for these insights. So one of the things that we focus on in this podcast, actually, is the most important part. That's our core mission, is to create educational environment and sharing informative content with our audience. And one of the subjects that I wanted to discuss a little bit is the lessons learned in your career journey. Is there any lessons learned that you can share with our audience that help you perform better, become more productive, or any other way professionally that help you improve yourself or make yourself your practices better, in terms of any lessons that you learn that you can share with our audience?
I got a couple. Maybe the first one is how important it is to develop relationships. By far, the most valuable thing to me have been the people that I've met along the way. And I don't think that I realized that as early on. But staying in touch with people, making them feel valued, and not asking things directly from them at first, but knowing that there may come a day where that person is super useful to you or you're super useful to them. Those relationships, I think, are incredibly important. So I would encourage people at the start of their career to ask yourself, who are the people that could possibly be helpful to you later on, and just stay friends with them. Don't say I've got to do something specific with them, but make sure that they don't forget about you. Check in with them every couple months. Have sure they don't fall away from. Hopefully, they like you. I think a lot of like people that are constant. If they will help you. That I learned was that times that if you were trying to get a particular thing, instead of asking people in your network for that thing, ask people in your network who they know, who they could introduce you, who may get you closer to that thing. So if I were to ask you, Kursad, can you hire me? I'm looking for a job. You may say, I don't have a job for you. And that kind of ends the conversation. But if I say, do you know anyone who may be able to help me get a job? You probably do know people, and it costs you nothing to introduce you to other people. And so it expands the network of people you know, and eventually you may land at someone that you're at the right place at the right time. I would also say this lesson, I think, is maybe specific to law, but maybe it's not. And that is to constantly think about what could go wrong and be vigilant, almost paranoid about preventing it. So in law, when I'm writing a contract or writing a legal argument, I think, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if they argue this? What if they say that? And I think a lot of people, particularly early in their career, go, don't worry, it won't happen. What are the odds that will happen? And if you're 22, you don't know what's going to happen. There's a whole world out there of stuff that you're unfamiliar with. And so I would say that a very prudent approach is in your work to just constantly think, I don't know the million crazy things that could happen. Like, there could be a pandemic. This building could collapse. Like, who knows what could happen? And just have a plan and address in your written work or in your plans, to account for all the things that could go wrong. You hired a vendor. What if that vendor doesn't show up? Then what? it will make your life, it's in the moment, more difficult, but in the long run, you will be viewed as a more reliable person if you have a plan for when stuff goes wrong, because inevitably things will go as, unexpected. And then lastly, I would say anytime you write something, write as if like someone later on is going to study it. As a lawyer, a lot of my job is poring over people's emails and trying to parse out, what did he mean by this? What did she mean by that? And so a lot of people kind of speak freely. They, text something without thinking. And if you're doing work, I would, anytime you hit send, say to yourself, is there some way someone will misinterpret this? Is this something I would be uncomfortable with some third person reading? And just be very careful when you write to write like someone else is going to study it. Trying to think of other lessons that I've learned. Recently, Warren Buffett's like good friend, Charlie Munger, who had started a law firm but then left the law firm, he died. And I was reading that someone had said that a lesson he had to other people in his law firm is that you can always tell someone to go to hell tomorrow. And I found that there's a lot of times where there's an impulse to tell someone, I hate you, like, you're the worst, like, and there's times where sometimes it's justified to stand your ground and to stand up for yourself. But it's been my experience that there's much more to be gained by not being angry, being firm, sure, but cursing someone out, or even telling them you're awful, even if they are awful, to just respectfully distance yourself, because you never know. You burning a bridge, I have found to be, gives you only a little bit of catharsis, but you will be surprised, if you're me, because I've been very surprised by the people that I thought hated me and never wanted anything to do with me again will come and want to help me out later on. And I probably wouldn't have had those opportunities if I had, told them what I really felt. So maybe another lesson I learned is to if you have the impulse to burn a bridge, to wait on it at the very least and let those passions dissipate.
For those who are thinking about getting into law practice in different capacities, do you have any career advice for them?
Sure. Well, the very first thing I would say is work in law before going to law school. I think a lot of people want to be a lawyer. In movies, lawyers look pretty because they think they're going to help people doing constitutional law things and making the world a better place. And actually working in a law office alongside lawyers may make you realize that law isn't always like that. And so you should know what you're getting into. And honestly, there are other, in fact, more higher paying jobs than lawyer. If you're interested in, wearing fancy clothes and making a lot of money, like you should go to business school and like work in investment banking. But if you are dead set, like I want to be a lawyer, I would be open to other kinds of law. I think that when people think of lawyers, they think of someone that goes to court, like a litigator, and a lot of law school is geared toward training future litigators. But there's all kinds of lawyers, people that work in immigration, people that draft contracts, people that come up with the labels on food, people that write the fine print that's in your credit card, people that help file patent applications. There's many different types of lawyers, and so if you're interested in law, one thing to think about, and you don't have to figure that out before you apply to law school, but to be open to many different ways that a law degree could be useful. I think a lot of people also go to law school thinking, oh, I don't need to become a lawyer because a law degree is useful for lots of different things. And I would kind of caution against that. Law school takes 3 years and it costs a lot of money for many people. And so that's time and money that could be spent doing other things. If you are interested in being a lawyer, I strongly encourage being a member of a bar association. You meet other people that could be helpful, and also just good friends that are kind of in the same plight with you and can give you some perspective. And I'll say also a big part of being a lawyer is serving people. And there are some lawyers that don't have to find clients. If you work in the government, or if you work for like a director services nonprofit organization, you will have tons of work. You don't need to go get it on your own. But some lawyers like me have to go out and find people to serve. And so there's some part of being a lawyer that's talking to strangers and selling yourself. And if that's not something that comes naturally to you, it doesn't mean that you can't be a lawyer. There's lots of lawyers that don't need to do that. But it's definitely something that many lawyers do. And so I would take steps to become comfortable with it. Practice, talking to strangers because it's a big part of the job for many people.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It has been a great podcast episode. Before we leave, would you like to share your reach out information with our audience if they'd like to get in touch with you? What is the best way?
Oh, sure. I have a website, willnewmanlawyer.com. That's probably the best way to find me and to work with me and to reach out with any questions. I also have a blog about litigation, unpredictableblog.com, because litigation is unpredictable. So if you like blog posts and stock photography, that's a website for you too. So unpredictableblog.com. Christoph, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being here.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much. And so there are many subjects to talk about, but within 30 minutes, this is what we can talk, and hopefully we can have follow-up episodes together in the future. Will, thank you very much for being with us. Truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. See you all soon.
Thank you very much. Well, it was a great episode, as you could tell. It was actually very informative, as always. Will is a great lawyer that you can trust. He also shared his reach out information, contact information with you. If you have questions, if you want to reach out to him, or any of his services, you can reach out to him, and someone that you can trust and take the advice. That's great. Well, thank you so much again. Just like I mentioned earlier in this episode, thank you very much for your support. We have more than 14,000 YouTube subscribers. We are really fired up, extremely motivated. Thank you very much for your support. And we'll keep bringing you every week new content, new informative educational business content. And in each episode, we have a subject matter expert. So we have these informative conversations to create this educational environment. And our number one goal, our mission, is to create these informative sessions. This is critical to deliver our mission, and we truly appreciate it. If you have an idea that you like us to cover in our business podcast, if you like to be a guest in our business podcast in incoming episodes, please write us. Our email address is americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. If you are wondering what is coming in our schedule, in our podcast episodes, you can visit our website, americanpodcast.tv. When you visit, on top, you'll see the coming episodes, what is scheduled, what we're going to talk about. So you'll see, and you can connect. We can watch live, or you can go to our YouTube channel, and you can watch anytime that you like. And if you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel, American Business Podcast, for Next Generation ABP YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, and we'll truly appreciate your support. Thank you very much for being with us, and looking forward to having you